Hi everyone, this is Arvind from MindMajix, and today I welcome you all to this amazing session on React interview questions. Okay, so we are continuing with our interview question series of videos. Okay, and this was one such topic with which we received a lot of comments from our viewers about preparing a video on this topic. Okay, so here we are with React interview questions, and basically we have divided this entire video, like the whatever questions that we will be discussing in this video. So we have classified into two categories. Okay, the first one is the beginners or the freshers category of questions, and the second set of questions is for those folks who are experienced. Okay, so let's say like for those people who have at least 2 to 3 years of experience with React. Okay, so if you watch this video till the end, this video will serve a very good revision just before your actual interview. Okay, so that's the whole idea behind making such videos. So without any further delay, let's get started. So guys, this is the beginner level of questions, and the first and obvious question is, what is React and why it is used? Okay, so let me share you, like before answering this question, let me share you a quick technique to get the most out of such videos. So whenever I read or whenever I discuss the question, what is React and why it is used in this case, so what you can do is you can pause the video and you can recollect the answer in your mind. Like you can recollect whatever that you already know about this question. Okay, and then when I discuss the answer, so at that time when you again play the video, then you will be able to clearly understand whether the answer that you collected in your mind or you revised in your own mind, so that matches with the answer that we are discussing. Okay, so if everything is good, then no issues. But if there is a bit of gap in the answer, this will help you to clear the concepts. So this is the best way to make the most out of the interview series videos. Okay, so the first question over here is, what is React and why is it used? Okay, so React is a front-end JavaScript library that mainly follows the component-based approach for building the user interface components for a single page application. So it is also used for handling the view layer in the both mobile application as well as web applications. Moreover, React plays a crucial role in developing interactive mobile and web UIs. So it was created and developed by Jordan Walk, and it was deployed first on the Facebook newsfeed in the year 2011. And the second part of question in this is, why is React used? Okay, so there are a few reasons that make React one of the most favorable user interface library. And the reasons are, it is very easy to learn. Next, it is very simple. Third, it is highly scalable. And fourth, it increases the performance of the web applications. Okay, so now let's move ahead with the next question. The next question is, how does React work? So there are a few steps which give us an idea about how does React exactly work. Firstly, the React runs the diffing algorithm to identify the changes that are made in the virtual DOM. The next step is reconciliation, and this is used to update the DOM as per the new features. Now the virtual DOM, which is lightweight in nature and is detached from the specific implementation of the browser. After that, the React elements which are present in the virtual DOM are used to build the basic nodes. And last but not the least, if the React component changes the state, the diffing algorithm runs faster and identifies the changes. After identification, it automatically updates the DOM with the change difference. Okay, so these are some of the steps which help you understand the exact working sequence of React. The next question is, what are the features of ReactJS? Okay, so guys, ReactJS and React are one and the same thing. It's just the like how you write it. Okay, so if you talk about the features of React, so as you can see on the screen, these are the features of React. So React improves the SEO performance. So React basically boosts the performance of the SEO to the higher levels as a search engine faces the problem while reading JavaScript of the high loaded applications. The next feature is React acts as a standard for mobile app development. It provides a transition process as an ideal solution for both mobile and web applications for building the rich user interfaces. After this, React makes the process of writing components easier. So using React along with JSX will make you write components and code efficiently and clearly. Next, React increases the efficiency. So React basically improves the efficiency of components by reusing them. So this is the reason why it is considered as an ideal feature of React. It is considered the most reusable system component. And the final point is, React ensures stable code. It ensures the stability of the code of an application by making use of downward data flow. So these were some of the features of React. The next question is, what are the advantages of React? So there are a few advantages of React, such as React makes usage of JSX easier to read and write code. It improves the performance of the applications with the use of virtual DOM. It provides an easier way to integrate with frameworks. React can be shared and rendered both on server and on client side. And last, writing integration and unit tests can be made smoother by using the tools. So guys, these were some of the advantages of using React. So now guys, the next question is very important as far as the interview is concerned. So this is a very obvious question that the interviewer will ask you, like comparison of React with Angular. Okay, so both of these frameworks are very popular and it is very important to know the exact difference between them. Okay, so as you can see on the screen, like whenever you are asked such a question in the interview, so what you can do is on a piece of paper, you can make two columns, one for ReactJS, another one for AngularJS, and you can write points of comparison in the respective columns. So the first point of comparison over here is use of DOM. Okay, so here ReactJS uses virtual DOM, whereas AngularJS uses real DOM. If you talk about the language, then ReactJS uses JavaScript with the extended XML syntax. On the other hand, if you talk about AngularJS, so it uses TypeScript, which is the superset of JavaScript. Okay, so the third point of comparison is the app structure. So it is represented only using the view of MVC. And in AngularJS, it is made of the complete MVC. And the last point of comparison is data binding. So in ReactJS, there is one-way data binding, whereas in AngularJS, there is two-way data binding. Okay, so guys, these are the 4 points of comparison between ReactJS and AngularJS. The next question is, does ReactJS use HTML? So the answer to this question is no, it uses JSX, which is similar to HTML. So the next obvious question will be, what is JSX? So it is basically a novel dialect of the popular JavaScript that simply integrates HTML templates into the code of JavaScript. The browser is not capable to read the code simply, and thus there is a need for this integration. So generally, Webpack or Babel tools are considered for this task. It has become a very popular approach in the present scenario among developers. So guys, let's move to the next question. And the next question is, what are the life cycles of ReactJS? There are basically 3 life cycles of ReactJS. The first one is the initialization. Then you have the state or property updates. And then the third phase is destruction. The next very important question over here is, what is Redux? Okay, so Redux is one of the most in-demand libraries for front-end development in today's growing world. So it is defined as a predictable state container mainly designed for JavaScript apps, and also it is used for managing the entire state of an application. So Redux is very small in size and has no dependencies. So it builds applications that are easy to deploy in different environments and easy to test. So guys, let's move ahead to the next question. So the next question is, what is the use of Redux thunk? Okay, so Redux thunk acts as a middleware which allows an individual to write action creators that return functions instead of actions. So this is also used as a delay function in order to delay the dispatch action if a certain condition is met. So the two store methods, getState and dispatch, are provided as parameters to the inner function. So guys, just to give you an example of the Redux thunk, so here I've written some lines of code, and from this code you can understand that how the Redux thunk is used. Okay, so in order to activate Redux thunk, we must first use apply middleware method. As you can see here, first you write import and then you pass the create store and apply middleware from Redux. After that, you import thunk from Redux thunk, and then you also import root reducer from this location. Okay, so as you can see here, this API requires a Redux and the version 3.1.0, and then you have the constant store, and here you write create store, and in the create store you pass root reducer and apply middleware, and basically you're passing the parameter as thunk. Okay, so I hope this code helps you understand the use of Redux thunk. So let's move to the next question. The next question is, what do you know about Flux? So basically, Flux is a basic illustration that is helpful in maintaining the unidirectional data stream. So it is meant to constitute data's unique fragments to make them interface with the data without creating any issues. So Flux configuration is insipid. It is not specific to React applications, nor it is required to collect a React application. So Flux is basically a straightforward idea. However, you have to exhibit a profound comprehension of its usage. The next question is, what is the current stable version of ReactJS? So guys, as you can see on the screen, the current or the latest version of React is 18.2.0, which was released on June 22nd, 2022. And if you talk about the official repository of React, so as you can see here, so this is the official repository of React, like github.com/Facebook/React. The next question is, what do you know about the component lifecycle in ReactJS? So the component lifecycle is an essential part of this platform. Basically, they have lifecycle events that fall in three primary categories, such as property updates, initialization, and destruction. They are generally considered as a method of simply managing the state and properties of every reach component. The next question is, do you think React has any limitations? If yes, please mention them. So yes, there are a few drawbacks which are associated with React. So the leading drawback of React is the size of its library. So it is very complex and creates a lot of confusion among the developers. Also, there are a lot of developers all over the world who really don't like the JSX and the inline templating. Apart from this, there is a major limitation of React, and it is that it only covers one layer of the application and the view. So thus, to manage the development, developers have to depend on several other technologies, which is time consuming. The next question is, how do the parent and child components exchange information? So this task is generally performed with the help of functions. So actually, there are several functions that are provided to both the parent and the child components. So they simply make use of the props. So their communication should be accurate and reliable. The need for the same can be there anytime, and therefore functions are considered for this task. They always make sure that the information can be exchanged easily and in an efficient manner among the parent and the child components. The next question is, what is state in React and how it is used? Okay, so in React, the state is an object that represents how the component renders and behaves. So states are the sources of data and allow you to create dynamic and interactive components. So they are accessed using the this.state method. So for changing a value in the state object, you can call it using this.setState method. So guys, the next another important question is, what are the differences between the class component and the functional component? Okay, so as discussed earlier, whenever you are asked, what is the difference between this and that? So what you will do is you'll take a piece of paper and you will make two columns. So in this case, the first column is for class component and the second one is for functional component. And the first column over here is the points of comparison, or you can say the parameter. Okay, so the first point of comparison is the syntax. So in case of class component, so it requests you to extend from React. So component to create render function that in turn creates a React element. So if you talk about functional component, so it is nothing but a plain JavaScript function that accepts props as their arguments and it returns a React element. The next point of comparison is the lifecycle hooks. So lifecycle hooks are created from the React component. So this class component makes lifecycle hooks available inside it. And if you talk about functional component, so we cannot use lifecycle hooks in a functional component. And the third point over here is the readability. So in case of class component, they are very difficult to test and read. Whereas in case of functional component, they are much easier to test and read. Okay, so these were the critical differences between class component and functional component. The next question is, what are props in React? So props stands for properties in React and used for passing the information from one component to another. But the data with the props are passed in a unidirectional flow, that is one way from the parent to the child. Apart from this, they are read-only data, which means child components cannot change the data coming from the parent. The next question is, what are the differences between state and props? These are the differences between state and props, as you can see on the screen. If you talk about the state, so the state is completely managed within a component for internal communication, whereas props are directly passed to its parents with child component. The second point is, state can be modified using the setState method. If you talk about props, a particular component should never modify its own props. The third point is state changes can be asynchronous. Whereas if you talk about props, so props are basically read only. So these were some of the differences between state and props. The next question is, what is higher order component? So in React, higher order component can be defined as the function that is mainly used to collect the component and returns a new component. So these components are the patterns that are extracted from React's compositional nature. So one important aspect of this component is that it is used as a reusable component logic in React. So it provides us with the best way to share the behavior between different React components. The next question is how to embed two components in one component. So guys, this is basically, a scenario kind of question. So with this question, the interviewer actually wants to know whether you have good amount of hands-on experience with React. Okay, so if you're coming back to this question, so how to embed two components in one component. So as you can see here, I have written a few lines of code. So first, what you do is you import React from React, and then you write class app extends react.component. After that, you have the render, and what you return is header and content inside the division. Okay, so once you write this, the next piece of code is the definition of header and content. So for defining the header, what you do is class header extends react.component and render and return. And here inside div, you write header, like whatever you want to write. And then the next piece of code is defining the content. Okay, so here what you write is class content extends react.component, and similarly to header, what you do is render return, and inside what you mention is the content, the actual content that you want to write. Okay, and at the last, what you do is you export default app. Okay, so this is how you embed two components in one components. In this piece of code, what we did is we embedded header and content inside the single component. The next question is, what are synthetic events in React? So React implements synthetic events to improve the consistency and performance of the applications and interfaces. The synthetic event is a cross-browser wrapper around browser's native event. So it combines the behavior of multiple browsers into a single API to make sure the event have the same properties across different browsers and platform. So guys, with this, we have come to the end of the beginner or the freshers category of questions. And now from 22nd onwards, these questions are meant for the experienced candidates. So guys, the next question is, how do you tell React to build in production mode and what will that do? Okay, so ordinarily, you'd utilize the Webpack's define plugin strategy to set node environment to production. So this will strip out things like prototype approval and additional notices. Over that, it's likewise a smart thought to minify your code in light of the fact that React utilizes uglifies dead code and to stripe out the advancement just code and remarks, which will radically diminish the measure of your package. The next question is, what do you understand by the term pooling? So the server needs to be monitored for the updates with respect to time. The primary aim in most cases is to check whether novel comments are present or not. So this process is basically considered as pooling. So it checks for updates approximately every 5 seconds. So it is possible to change this period easily. So pooling helps you keep an eye on the users, and it always makes sure that no negative information is present on the servers. So actually it can create issues related to several things, and thus pooling is considered. The next question is, when would you consider or use a class component over a functional component? So if your component has state or lifecycle method or methods, so then you use a class component, else you use a functional component. The next question is, what do you mean by virtual DOM? For all the available DOM objects in React, so there is a parallel virtual DOM object. So it is nothing but you can consider it as a lighter version of the true copy, and it is powerful in eliminating the complex code. So it is also used as a blueprint for performing several basic experiments. So many developers use it while practicing this technology. The next question is a very important question. Compare MVC with Flux. So MVC approaches are presently considered as outdated. So although they are capable to handle data concerns, controllers as well as UI, many developers found that it doesn't properly work when the application size increases. However, they are capable to handle some of the key issues, such as eliminating the lack of data integrity as well as managing the data flow which is not properly defined. On the other hand, if you talk about Flux, it works perfectly with all sizes of applications. Okay, and this was a critical difference between MVC and Flux. The next question is, what is the difference between an element and a component in React? So basically, a React component describes what you need to see on the screen. So not all that. Basically, a React element is a portrayal of some UI. A React component is a function or a class that alternatively acknowledges input and returns a React component. The next question is, tell us the 3 reasons behind the success of ReactJS. So ReactJS is a technology that can be trusted for complex tasks. So while performing any task through it, developers need not worry about the bugs. So it always ensures error-free outcomes, and the best part is that it offers scalable applications. It is very fast technology and can simply be trusted for quality outcomes. The next question is, in which lifecycle event do you make AJAX requests and why? So AJAX solicitations ought to go in the component did mount lifecycle event. So there are a few reasons behind this. First, the following usage of React's conciliation algorithm will be able to begin and quit rendering as the required execution benefits. So one of the exchange offs of this component will mount the other lifecycle event where it may bode well to influence an AJAX and ask for will be non-deterministic. So you can't ensure the AJAX request won't resolve before the component mounts. In the event that it did, that would imply that you are attempting to set state on an unmounted component, which won't work, as well as React will not do it for you. So doing AJAX component in component did mount will ensure that there's a component to update. The next question is, what is the difference between create element and clone element? So create element is the thing that JSX gets transpired to and is the thing that React uses to make React elements, and clone element is utilized as a part of a request to clone a component and passes it new props. So they nail the meaning of the both of these elements. The next question is, what is meant by event handling? So to capture the user's information and other similar data, the event handling system is considered. The next question is, what is the second argument that can be optionally passed to the set state and what is its purpose? So callback work will be conjured when the set state has completed and the part is re-rendered. So something that is not talked about a great deal is that set state is asynchronous, which is the reason it takes in a moment callback function. So ordinarily, it is best to utilize another lifecycle strategy instead of depending on this callback function. So however, it is very good knowledge, consider that it exists. The next question is, how many outermost elements can be there in JSX expression? So it must have one JSX element present so that the task can be accomplished easily. So having more than one expression is not an issue, but it will probably slow down the process. So there are also chances of confusion with more than one expression if you are new to this technology. The next question is, what are the controlled components and uncontrolled components? So there are components in ReactJS that maintain their own internal state. So they are basically considered uncontrolled components. On the other side, the components which don't maintain any internal state are considered as controlled components in React. So controlled components can be easily controlled by several methods. So most of the React components are controlled components. The next question is, mention the key benefits of Flux. So applications that are built on Flux have components that can be simply tested. So by simply updating the store, developers are able to manage and test any React component. So it cuts down the overall risk of data affection. So all the applications are highly scalable and suffer no compatibility issues. So guys, the next question that we will be discussing is a scenario kind of question. Okay, so it will happen a lot in the interview that the interviewer, what he will do is, what he or she will do is, they will give you a piece of code and they will ask you what is wrong or right with the following code. Okay, so based on that, here we have considered a code snippet. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to see this code and you have to understand or you have to mention what is wrong with this code. Okay, so for this question, what you can do is you can pause the video, you can try to understand or see this code, And then whatever answer or whatever wrong things are present in this code, what you can do is you can write your answer in the comment section. Okay, so once you write the answer in the comment section, what we'll do is we'll try to understand how many of you are actually able to answer this question. Okay, so guys, we are not going to discuss this question. I'll leave it up to you to write the answer of this question in the comment section. Okay, so now let's move ahead with the next question. The next question is, why browsers cannot read JSX? Okay, so actually JSX is not considered proper JavaScript. Browsers cannot read them, and there is always a need to compile the files that contain the JavaScript code. So this is usually done with the help of JSX compiler, which performs the task prior to the file entering the browser. Also, compiling is not easy in every case. So it actually depends on a lot of factors such as source or nature of the file or the data. The next question is, what are pure functional components? Traditional React components, as we have seen so far, are making a class with a class. Example extends React.component or React.create class. So these make stateful components on the off chance that we at any point set the state, that is this.set state or get initial state or this.state inside a constructor. So in the event that we have no exception for a component to require state or to require lifecycle methods, we can really compose components with a pure function. Consequently, the expression of pure function component. The next question is, what is the difference between a real DOM and virtual DOM? So guys, as you can see on the screen, these are the differences between virtual DOM and real DOM. Okay, so in case of virtual DOM, it updates faster, whereas the real DOM updates slower. In case of virtual DOM, there is no memory wastage, whereas in case of real DOM, there is excessive memory wastage. Okay, so in virtual DOM, you cannot update HTML directly, whereas in real DOM, you can update HTML directly. The last point over here is DOM manipulation is easy in virtual DOM, whereas in real DOM, the DOM manipulation is costly. The next question is, what happens during the lifecycle of a React component? So a standout amongst the most valuable parts of React is its segment lifecycle. So seeing precisely how segments components after some time is instrumental in building a viable application. The next question is, what exactly you can do if the expression contains more than one line? So guys, this is another scenario based question. And if you talk about the answer of this question, so in this case, enclosing the multi-line JSX expression is an option that you can do. If you are a first time user, it may seem a bit awkward, but later you can understand everything very easily. So many a time it becomes necessary to avoid multi-lines to perform the task reliably and for getting the results as expected. The next question is it possible to use the word class in JSX? If yes, why? And if not, why not? So the answer to this question is no, it is not possible in JSX. So this is because the word class is a reticent or the occupied word in JavaScript. However, you can use or you are free to use the word class name. If you use the word class, the JSX will be translated to JavaScript immediately. The next question is, what do you know about React Router? So rendering the components is an important task in React. So React Router is used to decide which components are to be rendered and which ones should not. So it also performs dictation during the several activities. The next question is, what are stateless components? On the off chance that React components are basically state machines that produce UI markup, at that point, what are stateless segments? So stateless components are simply pure functions that render DOM construct exclusively with respect to the properties that are given to them. So as you can see, component has no requirement for any internal state, not to mention a constructor or a lifecycle handler. The yield of the component is absolutely a function of the properties that are given to it. The next question is it possible to display props on a parent component? So the answer to this question is yes, it is possible. So the best way to perform this task is by using the spread operator. So it can also be done by listing the properties, but this is a complex or a tedious process. The next question is, in React, why there is a need to capitalize on the components? So it is necessary because the components are not the DOM elements, but they are the constructor in itself. So if they are not capitalized, they can cause various issues and can confuse developers with several elements. At the same time, the problem of integration of some elements and commands can also be there. So guys, the next question over here is, what do you understand by DOM diffing? So if you talk about DOM diffing, so when the components are rendered twice, the virtual DOM begins checking the modification of the elements that I've got. So they represent the changed element on the page simply. So there are several other elements that don't go through the following changes. So to cut down the changes to the DOM as an outcome of user activities, so DOM diffing is considered. So it is generally done to boost the performance of the browser. So this is the reason for its ability to perform all the tasks quickly. The next question is it possible to nest JSX elements into other JSX elements? So the answer to this question is yes, it is possible. So the process is quite similar to that of nesting of HTML elements. However, there are certain things that are different in this. So you must be familiar with the source and the destination elements to perform this task simply. So guys, with this, we have come to the end of this session on React interview questions. I hope you guys have understood and you have enjoyed this session. Okay, so if you have any queries or any doubts related to this session, then you can write your doubts and queries in the comment section and my team is here to help you with solving all your doubts. Okay, so guys, I wish you all the best for your upcoming React interview. Thank you so much for being with us and all the best.